So Bruce, help me out. You're the best in the business. People are saying the humor's forced. I'm trying too hard, but I think I'm a funny guy. Help me out here.
Tell them this joke and they'll love you. A man goes to a doctor. He says, "Doctor, it hurts when I do this." The doctor says, "Don't do that." He says, "I want a second opinion." So a second doctor comes in. He says, "Doctor, it hurts when I do this." The second doctor says, "Don't do that." So a third doctor comes in. He says, "Doctor, it hurts when I do this." The third doctor says, "You have cancer." "I have cancer?" He says, "Yes. When they tell you not to do something, you better not do it."
Oh, get out. You're fired.
Ow!
That was dark. But not as dark as Dark Avengers. Hi everyone, welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, the Last Angry Geek. What happens when you take a team that's traditionally filled with the greatest heroes on Earth and instead fill it with villains disguised as heroes? Well, that's the premise of Dark Avengers. A book written by Brian Michael Bendis, the man behind New Avengers, and indeed the entire Avengers franchise for the last 7 years, and drawn by Mike Deodato. The book spun out of another relaunch of another Marvel title, Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts. What was previously a book about a team of villains seeking to redeem themselves by acting as heroes had now become a book about a group of villains who would hunt down unlicensed superheroes in exchange for eventual pardons. The team consisted of members of the old Thunderbolts team and newer members like Bullseye and Venom. And leading them all, why none other than William Dafoe himself. Make that Tommy Lee Jones.
Don't tell Harry.
Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. Then Secret Invasion happened. During the final battle with the Skrulls, Norman scored the kill shot on the Skrulls' leader, an unarmed woman who'd already been brutally beaten by Wolverine.
Yay, heroism!
Somehow this act made Norman a national treasure, and he's placed in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., which he shuts down and renames Hammer, now in a position that would make Big Brother envious.
The Shadow Organization from the novel 1984, not the reality show. Read a book!
Anyway, Norman then proceeds to make the lives of every single hero in Marvel Comics a living hell, and launches his own team of Avengers. Hence the Dark Avengers, because evil Avengers or morally ambiguous Avengers just wouldn't sell comics like Dark does. The team includes Norman as a hybrid Iron Man Captain America, the Iron Patriot, pumpkin bombs not included. The sole holdout from the original Thunderbolts team, Moonstone, is the new Miss Marvel. Ares, the god of war, and one of the two holdouts from the previous Mighty Avengers team. Bullseye, the longtime Daredevil villain and now the new Hawkeye. Venom has been changed into the team's new Spider-Man. Novar, a Kree warrior, and the new Captain Marvel. Daken, the son of Wolverine and the team's token mutant, who is now, Wolverine. And the Sentry, another former legitimate Avenger, an all-around basket case with more power than God.
Now, every single book from Amazing Spider-Man to X-Men and everything in between has been using Norman Osborn as the big bad of the Marvel Universe since that happened. He shows up, makes the heroes' lives difficult, then heads back to New York, occasionally getting his butt kicked in the process, all the while proclaiming another victory for the war against unregistered superpowers. In fact, during the Civil War miniseries, this is exactly what Iron Man was afraid would happen, that the government would regulate the superheroes and place some nut in charge of them all who would make everyone's lives hell. But did they listen to Iron Man? No, they branded him a traitor and forced him into hiding after he lost the Secret Invasion. I guess some people are going to spend this weekend baking apology brownies. Anyway, in the book Dark Avengers, this seems to be the one place where the Dark Avengers can be seen doing heroic things. Oh, they still do it while acting as backstabbing psychopaths, but at least they can do some good while committing their atrocities.
In the first arc, Osborn assembles his Avengers, taking time to bond with the equally insane Sentry, and he presents them to the public, at the same time that he's making backroom deals with many of the villains of the Marvel Universe. One of those deals gets tested when Dr. Doom is attacked by Morgana Le Fay, the sorceress from the legends of King Arthur. Apparently Doom seduced Morgana, learning her magic, and then left her in the past.
Who knew that the world's ugliest armor and a face like Freddy Krueger was actually panty peeler for the Batgirl set?
So the Dark Avengers get in their ship and fly off to Latveria to save the day. The Sentry shows up and he rips Morgana's head right off of her body.
You know, for kids.
But Morgana can use time travel to keep coming back after each death and she blows up the Sentry and then unleashes an army of demons, until Osborn and Doom travel back in time to before she attacks them to take her out in a preemptive strike. A hearty toast of frescas and a round of attaboys, and the team heads back to New York, only to find that the Sentry has reformed himself and is still alive. In issues 5 and 6, Osborn has to deal with the fallout from Bendis' New Avengers, where Hawkeye went on public TV to out Osborn as the Green Goblin. How? With a press conference where he tearily acknowledges his past evil deeds, like throwing blondes off of bridges, but passes the buck onto a chemical imbalance. Genius. Oh, and that really scary Sentry? Not dealt with. In the meantime, Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel get busy, or busy as the kids like to say, but in that post-alien superhuman coitus glow, she lets it slip that most of the team is former villains. Novar does a surprisingly human thing. He runs away and never calls her again. Seriously, he's gone from the book, except for an appearance in their first annual in which he fights the Sentry and then keeps running away. Wow. Oh, and Atlantis perpetrates terrorism attacks on the United States, and a captured fishman is then fed to Venom, just like a Skrull was at the beginning of the series.
You know, for kids.
After that, the book goes into a crossover with Uncanny X-Men where the Avengers fight the mutant heroes, and the X-Men are eventually forced out of San Francisco, and indeed the continental United States, and onto a floating island. Oh, and Emma Frost forces the Sentry to realize how evil he's become under Osborn, and he flies off into space. Once again, this is not dealt with.
In fact, this is kind of a theme. The Sentry goes nuts, shows just how powerful he is, and it's never dealt with. In issue 10, his own wife shoots him in the head because she's afraid of him. And yet, issue 11, he's shown flying around like nothing happened. I mean, Bendis has promised an upcoming issue would fill in all these holes of what's been going on with the Sentry. But honestly, issue to issue, after 12 issues and having no answers, it's very unsatisfying.
In fact, unsatisfying is a good word for this book. That's because the book is filled with one-dimensional characters. The only one Bendis really does anything with is Osborn, his assistant, Victoria Hand, and the Sentry, whom he wrote in Mighty Avengers. And Hawkeye is occasionally used, but strictly for dark humor. Venom, Dakin, and Miss Marvel are all wasted as characters. Ares is pretty useless too, constantly neutralized by whomever they're fighting lest he overpower everyone else. Hey, he is a god. The art by Deodato is pretty good, and except for the annual and the X-Men crossover, he's drawn every single issue. In the days where a creative team barely lasts 4 issues, I do appreciate his putting in the time on this project. And Deodato is amazing at likenesses. His Norman looks just like Tommy Lee Jones. And his colorist, Rain Barreto, does a great job of using muted, dark colors and earth tones to give the book a, wait for it, dark look.
Good art aside, I'm going to have to give this book a thumbs down. Why? When it first launched, it felt like this was going to be an important book telling important things about the Marvel Universe. But Bendis has most of his time having the team fighting unimportant battles against vastly superior opponents that they somehow manage to overwhelm. He never really does anything with the cast, with the exception of Norman Osborn, who he shows growing increasingly paranoid and insane, and the Sentry, who he keeps reinforcing just how powerful and uncontrollable he is. All the important things seem to be happening in other titles like New Avengers or Invincible Iron Man, or even Siege, the upcoming miniseries that's going to show how Norman's reign of terror comes to an end. Honestly, if you like the idea and think it has merit, you should go read Warren Ellis's volume of Thunderbolts, where Ellis and Deodato first toyed with giving Norman Osborn and company some power in the Marvel Universe. It's a much darker, bloodier, evil book, and I really love those stories. Bendis is at his best when he writes heroes. Go read New Avengers, go read Ultimate Spider-Man, you'll see what I'm talking about. He just can't seem to really get in the villain's mindset. That's their best as one-note opponents in his books. So, that's my thoughts. Dark Avengers. I'm the last angry geek, saying Konnichiwa!